Hello dear learners, let's continue our session. In the previous session, we have talked about the practical and theoretical reasons behind why organizations they chose to collaborate with other organizations in the network. We have had detailed discussion on understanding these reasons. Now, after understanding that why organizations collaborate, now they have already decided to pick a partner from the organization's network to form a collaboration. It is important to understand various factors while selecting the partner and or collaborator. So, the agenda of this session will be on understanding various factors which the organizations should keep in mind before they select a partner or collaborator from the network. Now, if you notice, the collaborations can happen among wide range of partners. These partners can include public or private sector organizations, non-government organizations, and they can come from varied industries or sectors. Now, you remember when we talk about cross-sector collaborations to deal with the complex issues and the problems. So, we say that these organizational partners can come from the different sectors to take care of the complex issues and the problems, right? And hence, we are saying that collaboration can happen between the actors from the different sectors and industry. Now, let us focus on some important considerations that has to be given by the organizations before selecting the collaborator or the partner. First, while making a choice to select a partner from the same or different sector, it is crucial for the organization to consider the interest of the organizations that seek to collaborate. For instance, a collaboration between a government and the private organization will have important implications for the policy outcomes. Let us take an example of government policy on providing healthcare services to its citizens at subsidized rate, and government intends to collaborate with the private sector organization in delivering the healthcare services. Now, we are trying to see that on what basis organization decide whether they can go ahead with one particular organization or collaborator in a different sector or not. Now, in this example, if you see, the government has to provide healthcare service to the citizens on the basis of equity and fairness principle, and also takes into consideration their capacity to pay for healthcare. And because it is a government duty to provide for the healthcare services, and it is important that the government should take into consideration whether the public can pay for the healthcare or not, and what is their capacity to pay. The private sector organizations in collaboration, on the other hand, will seek opportunities for profitability because their goal, their motives are completely different from the public sector organizations. So, if you see that there is a classic contrast and differences in the motives of public and private sector organizations. So, when the government organization or the private organization they seek to collaborate with each other, it is important that these organizations consider these important differences and find out the ways to collaborate in most efficient ways to provide high quality public services, right? So, this is one of the reasons that their motives, goals should be in alignment. The chances of differences between the two should be low, and if there are differences, they have to find out ways how to minimize those differences, right? Now, to further understand the differences among the ideas behind the goals and the attitudes of the organization, please refer to the theory of organizational alignment proposed by Lazzarini in 2020 in an article which is published in Academy of Management Review, the source reference of which is mentioned at number 2 in the source list here. I strongly suggest learner to read this article to learn how different form of organizations they actually form the collaboration and impact the kind of collaborations. For example, public bureaucracy, it's a type of collaboration we're talking about. It include public sponsorship as well as public management. Both the parties are from the public sponsorship and public management. In case of public-private partnership, it's a mix of both public sponsorship and private management. So the sponsorships come from the public organization and the management can be taken care of the private sector organization. And a social enterprise type, they can change the managerial incentive to provide high quality social services. Now, sometimes it can also happen that the incentive for private sector organizations in comparison to public sector organization which aims to create social service are not attractive, and then the situation can lead to compromised outcomes. So it is important that differences has been taken into consideration, has been well thought of before the organization they choose to collaborate with the organizations. Now, in this regard, what is happening is literature highlight the role of importance of not-for-profit organization and their collaboration with government agencies, right? Now, if you look at the relationship between government agency and the non-profit organization, their interest, if you look at, they will align because both agencies, they intend to provide social service. The idea is that not-for-profit organizations' values are better aligned with the government organizations in terms of welfare of the community. Now, you see the difference between the two partnerships we have just talked about. A partnership between a government agency and the private sector organization, a partnership between the government agency and a non-government organization. You see that the values and the attitudes and the goals are better aligned in terms of government and NGO sector. There are differences between the government organization and the private sector organization if that partnership takes place. I am not saying that that partnership is not going to work. All I am saying is before making a decision on selecting a partner from a different sector, the differences should be taken into consideration and the organizations should acknowledge that these differences exist and they have to deal with it, right? Now, further, if you look at in terms of the partnership between a government agency and a non-profit organization. Now, what happens is a non-profit organization have experience of serving people and they are considered trustworthy for collaboration with government agencies because of the alignment of the values, or we'll say congruence of the goals between the partners from these particular sectors. Now, the collaboration among the organizations from cross sectors are often considered valuable to address complex problems. Right? Now, in this context, they talked about that the existence of the prior working relationship between the organization is built on strong trust, and if it is the case, the chances of succeeding in cross-sector collaboration will be more. Now, see, we are talking about the idea of selecting the partner. So, they say that if there exists a prior working relationship between two partners already, that they have already partnered with each others before also now, and they are again going to partner, and there is some kind of trust which is already been established between the partners, the selection of the partner becomes more easy because the trust is already established, the competencies are well demonstrated, right? So, this increases the chances of the success of the collaboration, and in that case the organization will choose to go ahead with that organization which they have already prior working relationship with them, because the chances of this particular collaboration will be much more in terms of the success. Now, about shared values, importance of shared values, you see that we have already discussed about it in terms of common purpose as the reason for collaboration, right? When the government organizations, they prefer to partner with the organization having shared values, for example, welfare of the community to provide public service, right? And the selection of the partners that align with the creation of public service for the citizens. So, shared values between government organization and the other organization which have similar idea to provide social service. So, in that case we say that shared values between the organizations who want to or seek to collaborate with each other can be an indicator, or I would say can be an important factor whether the organization want to go ahead with that kind of partner or not, because this relates to the public value management creation model of collaboration, because the thing is that they are trying to create value for public, right? So, ultimately it will lead to the better success and alignment between the two parties in terms of their working, their style, to do better for the organizations. Now, imagine if the values are not congruent or they are not aligned, it can lead to the various challenges for the collaboration effort. Especially it is true in the case of multi-agency collaboration. Well, multiple partners are coming to form a collaboration and they have different ideas, goals, values and attitudes, and if they are not in congruence, there will be lot of conflict. It can lead to the potential conflict among the possible partners and make collaboration more challenging, and sometimes it can also lead to collaboration failure or dissolution of the collaborations. So ultimately what happened is the purpose is lost. They collaborated to with an idea to solve a particular problem, but the values and the attitudes are not aligned, or they are incongruent. It can lead to the collaboration failure also, right? Now moving on, now we have discussed about the reasons for organizations to collaborate and also talked about some of the important the indicators or the points or the aspect that the organizations need to keep in mind while they select the partners to collaborate. Now they have collaborated, the collaboration is to take place. It is important now to discuss about various mechanisms that the organizations they need to keep in mind so that the organization leads to the success. The organization collaboration leads to the success, right? Now the discussion will now focus on understanding these mechanisms that can lead to the success of collaboration, right? Now these collaborative mechanisms, they act as important facilitators as they help the collaboration to sustain. If you look at the meaning of the collaboration, which is also given in the textbook mentioned for the course, is about these mechanisms are the tools that facilitate continuity, long-term continuity, lessen the potential for conflicts and make collaboration more successful and less prone to dissolution. These are the various ways with the help of which organizations who are going to be partners, they try to ensure that how they can facilitate continuity by following some mechanisms, how they can reduce the potential for conflict, how they can ensure that the collaborations are going to be successful and they will not lead to dissolutions. So these mechanisms are to be well thought of. Also, these mechanisms sometimes act as glue intended to sustain collaboration, because they actually direct the organizational partners to actually take care of their day-to-day activities in such a way that there is a minimal chance of the conflict and hence the minimal chance of the collaboration dissolution, right? Now the important question here is that why these collaboration mechanisms are required. Why we need to talk about these collaboration mechanisms in detail. When the organizations have already decided to collaborate with each other, what purpose these mechanisms are going to solve? Now, there are various reasons behind the need of these collaborative mechanisms. First, the partners in collaboration, when they are going to form the collaboration, they may not have the access to the entire information which they need, or they may not sometimes anticipate the upcoming scenario before time. So this uncertainty and lack of information access that the organization might not have to, they can lead to certain situations, certain contingency which the organization might in times confront, which needs to be addressed, right? So as and when these contingencies or the problems or the situation arises that demands organization to look into this, then these mechanisms, one of the ways to deal with this is to include the details of mechanisms in the form of formal contract agreements. So write down when they will come across these kind of situations or they confront contingencies, how to deal with those kind of contingency as and when they arise. So formal agreements writing is one of the ways to deal with this. So one of the reasons that why these mechanisms are required, because organizations they confront uncertainty. At the time of beginning of the collaboration, they might not have the information required. Now, during their collaborative effort, when they have lot of conversations, lot of exchange between them happened, and over a period of time, as situation changes, they will have more access to information, which can put them into situations which they have not thought of earlier when they were entering into the collaborations. So these formal agreements can act as facilitators in terms of directing them how to deal with those kind of situations, right? Second, the organizations sometimes, organizations in the network, in that collaboration sometimes have potential advantage over the other, or they may overpower the other partners in the collaboration, and sometimes they can take advantage or behave opportunistically. Now, in this scenario like this, if this happens, what is going to be the case, and how the organizational partners, they will look into this scenario and try to address this. Now, in this case, collaborative mechanisms such as appointing committee members. So, there will be some committee members which will be appointed to look into these issues to ensure accountability. For example, if other party in the collaboration try to take advantage of the other party because they are more having potential advantage over the other, they try to take advantage of the other. So, these committees are responsible for looking into the cases like these and try to address those problems, right? Third, and important, very important reasons behind why these mechanisms are required is that how to facilitate coordination and communication, because now partners are coming in collaboration. There will be a lot of exchange of information happening between them, and various activities have to be coordinated. With what ways and mechanisms these coordination and communication things will be taken care of, it is important that these mechanisms are put in place, right? So, these are the discussion on the various mechanisms, requirement of the various mechanisms. Now, the issue here is what can work as mechanisms. We talked about the mechanisms are required, what are the mechanisms, but what are the things which can work as mechanisms to ensure accountability? We will first of all look into this. Let us consider our discussion on what can work as collaborative mechanisms for ensuring accountability. Literature highlighted various ways or mechanisms through which accountability can be assured. If you can refer to the citation number 1 in the source listing on the slide here, according to Elinor Ostrom, in the book Governing the Commons, The Evolution of Institutions for Collective Action, published in 1990, 3 important rules have been highlighted: operational rules, policy rules, and constitutional rules which guide the behavior, right? Rene, along with colleagues, they try to provide the explanation for how these rules ensure accountability in a collaborative setting or arrangements. Let's look into these rules, what are these rules, and how these rules can work as the mechanisms that can ensure the accountability among the partners. Now, according to the views of the researchers, operating rules are the rules that guide the partners in the collaboration. Mean the partners who are collaborating with each other, they guide these collaborators how to take care of day-to-day network activities. That whatever activities they are to carry on, they have to perform, what are the rules relating to, operating rules relating to these kind of activities. So, these rules, they actually guide them how to take care of their daily basis activities that are to be performed, right? Second comes the rules which are related to policy rules. They govern what kind of activities are allowed. These rules actually focus on what kind of activities are allowed in the networks and what kind of activities are not allowed. So, these are very clear-cut guidance and directions to the partners that what is allowed and what is not allowed. So, what these rules are doing? They are giving some kind of direction and guidance and indication to the partners how they should conduct themselves when they are partnering with each other. Finally, constitutional rules, they actually determine that which are the parties who can participate in decision making, and if certain collective decisions has been taken, how to make changes on those collective choice decisions, right? So, these rules are actually guide who can participate in decision making, who have more authority in taking care of the decisions, how to change those decisions, and if at all it requires that decisions are to be changed, how those decisions will be changed, right? So, this is important. So, if you notice that these rules can work as important mechanisms and play a vital role in ensuring accountability in collaborations and partnerships, because something is there which is giving the organization some kind of directions. These organizations can get clues from these things that what is allowed, what is not allowed, how they can carry on their activities. They are very, very important facilitators for the organizing partners to take care of the collaborative effort, right? Next, the literature highlight the role of structural mechanisms for accountability. After rules, the literature also talked about structural mechanisms for ensuring accountability. For this, I have taken some of the content from the paper of Saz-Carenza et al., which was published in 2020, and the citation is mentioned at number 3 in the source listing. This particular paper was published in Public Administration, and it highlights the role of some of the structural mechanisms. Now, the paper is titled Network Tasks and Accountability, a configurational analysis of European Union regulatory networks. So, this we are talking about the structural mechanisms for the higher level networks. Now, according to these authors, 3 basic structure configurations are used by the rule enforcing networks, and these configurations are decided by political negotiations among members during the network setup. Now, we are talking about the networks at the higher level in the government. What kind of structural mechanisms can actually guide the partners in the network for the conduct of the various activities. Now, as per authors Saz-Carenza and colleagues, the first among these configuration is the configuration with the legal accountability, that is characterized by Board of Appeals. So, first the authors they suggested configuration with legal accountability, and according to them this particular accountability is characterized by Board of Appeals. Now, according to them, the Board of Appeals is an independent unit of networks governance. So, in the network there are many parties involved, many partners, organizational partners are involved. So, Board of Appeals, this is an independent unit of networks governance structure, and they are responsible for looking into the matters of appeals against certain decisions by the network. Now, at any point in time, the partners in the network, if they have taken some kind of decisions which are against the interest of the other partners in the network, so these appeals can be made to these Board of Appeals. So, these Board of Appeals then this Board of Appeals then look into the matter and try to decide on, look into the matters which are related to the decisions which are against the general motive of the network there. Second configuration which the authors highlight is the configuration with the administrative accountability. The author says that this accountability relates to the role of powerful executive boards and professional experts. Saz-Carenza and colleagues, they said that these networks with the wider scope and higher network level of interdependence, if there is a lot of higher interdependence between the network partners, they will have to rely on administrative accountability through strong boards and professional experts. The reason is that the network grows and becomes more complex. When more and more number of members and parties they get involved in the network, the complexity grows. Now, in this case what happens? Certain decision making processes require expertise based information which may not be available with one organizations. So, the opinions and the viewpoint of these experts can play a great role in ensuring professionalism and administrative accountability. So, this as a structural mechanism can actually guide the organizations in the network as far as their conduct of the activities is concerned. Finally, the configuration for democratic accountability has been suggested. It includes the elected officials or legislative representatives into the network. Now, because you see that we are talking about the higher level networks, and in this case, in this paper, they talked about European Union network, right? If you notice the title of the paper here, this particular context is the context of European Union networks. So, this configuration of democratic accountability, it includes elected officials or legislative representative into the market, into the network. The idea behind this configuration is to have representative to distribute control among the network members. The idea is that the power should not go in the hands of one dominant player in the network, it should be distributed. Now, if you closely look at the flow of the accountability, it is from the public civil servants to the top official in the parliament. So, to ensure democratic accountability, placing legislator in the network plenarily is very, very important. So that one powerful party should not overpower the other in terms of certain kind of decisions with respect to the network related activities. So these representative control the power going in one particular one particular organization in the network and take care of the interest of all the parties in the network, right? Similar to the idea of accountability configuration, Devarakonda and Ruhr in 2018, the paper titled Knowledge Sharing and Safeguarding in R&D Collaborations, the role of steering committees in biotechnology alliances. This study was published in Strategic Management Journal. They talked about the administrative controls. They highlight the role of administrative controls. The authors argued that these controls in the form of governing committees have authority over collaboration activities and demonstrate how contracts serve as the ways to facilitate knowledge transfer among the partner in the collaborations. Now you see that they talked about the concept of administrative controls. Again, another type, or if you look at in terms of rules, structural mechanisms, this is another type way of looking at what can work as mechanisms to ensure accountability. They talked about the role of governing committees and important instruments to administrative controls, instruments of administrative controls that oversee and safeguard against partner engaging in non-cooperative behavior. They say that if some partners they show the opportunistic behavior or they try to misappropriate resources, these steering committee members will look into this and they will actually take some kind of decisions, right? Sometimes what happens is they incentivize some kind of behavior, but in other cases sanctions are to be there if some party goes as showing opportunistic behavior and try to misappropriate resources, right? So these are some of the mechanisms which can be used to ensure accountability in the network. Okay, collaboration agreements according to the study of Gulati and Singh to specify communication and decision making processes. Now in this case we are going to talk about what can work as mechanism in ensuring coordination and communication. In the previous slides we talked about what can work as ensuring accountability, what can work as mechanism to ensure accountability. Herein we talk about mechanisms to ensure coordination and communication. So the study by Gulati and Singh, which is highlighted here, published in Administrative Science Quarterly, they say that these mechanisms play a vital role in guiding partners in collaboration to manage and coordinate the activities for better control and efficiency. Now, in another study, it is highlighted that the contractual delegation of authority, and if according to this view, employing steering committees by partners to guide interaction and dealing with the contingencies. Now, what these steering committee will do? They will be responsible for guiding partners to address the contingencies through well coordinated efforts and interactions. So, in this case, what we are talking about, how coordination and communication is to take place, right? Specify communication and decision making processes as per the collaboration agreements. The second is sometimes contractual delegation can be of the authority can be given to the employing steering committees which can actually guide the partners in dealing with the contingencies and situation through well coordinated efforts and interactions. So this was with relation to mechanisms for ensuring coordination and communication.